Thank you. So just to give you a short introduction of myself, I work at Telia. My name is Beata Nylen, and I'm head of what we call Conversational Solutions and Analytics. And today I will talk more about the conversational solutions and the conversational AI that we promote to the market today. And as the topic says, we will not sit around and think about implementing conversational AI in our contact center solutions. I think we are ready to do it and to get moving right on. And I will give you a few tips and hints on your AI journey ahead. Just short about Telia. Telia is a Nordic telecom operator with the head office in Stockholm and some 20,000 employees. Within my department, we are specialized in the contact center area. We are business-to-business provider. We handle customers across Europe. Our home market is Nordic, but as you can see on the map, we do have a footprint larger than the Nordic countries. Yearly, we handle over 25 million telephone calls with some kind of conversational AI solution. But the contact center platform handles or have handled over 350 million interactions each year. And this is where we sort of start this presentation. What can we do with those many million interactions that come across companies and organizations each year? And this is a statement from Gartner, and this is not a forecast about the future. This is actually this year, stating that by 2021, 15% of all customer service interactions will be completely handled by AI, that is artificial intelligence, and that is an increase of 400% from a couple of years ago. And this is the research vice president at Gartner that states this. And I worked in this business quite some time. I've seen a lot of forecasts over the year, but I think that this one is what we sort of can see today, that we have an increased large number of interactions promoted or led by conversational AI. And this huge impact, and why this is a driving force today, is of course Google, for instance. At Telia, we have provided voice bots for more than 20 years, but I would say that Google and the impact that Google has will actually make it grow even more than Telia can grow the market. And look at what Google can provide to the market today is the Google Contact Center AI, that is CCAI. And Google has a conversational core, that is they provide speech recognition, they provide text to speech, that is speech, synthesized speech. And with these components, you can sort of build value added services on that. The first one is the virtual agent, the Dialogflow, where you are able to build your conversational AI services using speech components or text understanding within those services. Another part of the Google offering within CCAI is Agent Assist, and that is the real-time assistance for agents that are in conversations with customer. They get assistance depending on what's happening within the conversation. Is it a churn risk? Is it an upsell, etc.? And you can give guidance on the next step. And the last part that Google provides is the analytics or the insights, where you can, based on those language components, the core conversational components, you can analyze ongoing conversations, whether they are a spoken conversation, whether they are a chat, and you can make analytics, you can see trending. These are components that can vary from different countries. For instance, the Nordic countries do not have full support for Insight AI and agencies, but they are all in the roadmap. So you have to know what's in there with your local languages. So given that Google, and I would say you have other providers as well, Amazon will also provide offers like this with conversational core technology that you can build value-added services on. And also proud to say that Telia is a recommended partner for Google today, together with some other giants on the market out there. Anyhow, so look at the enterprise or your big organization. Chatbots and virtual agents is the #1 use case for AI technology in enterprises. So that is what we see is upcoming. The more websites and more companies you visit today, the more chatbots you come across. And I would say that it is time to go from why do I have to start to how do I start. And just a short brief on why conversational AI has a value. Of course, it's an automated service, and what does that bring to your company? Yes, it improves response time. It has the ability to provide contextual, relevant, and personal recommendation. It depends on what have you been looking at, what questions do you ask your chatbot, and it can be relevant depending on that kind of data. You can incorporate sentiment into responses. You know, you can sort of detect whether the customer is within a certain mode, and you can also do analysis based on your interactions and sentiments. Conversational AI or any self-service, of course, eliminates bottlenecks where you have queues, and you free more time for your agents. So that those drivers should be, I hope, known for everyone then. So when you start with your conversational AI or your chatbot, it can also be a voice bot, I would say. I have divided it into 4 sort of main parts. You have to do your analysis correct, you have to consider design, you have to implement it, and you have to sort of tune it and enhance your conversational AI implementation. And I would say that you can start with analysis today, design you can start tomorrow. It's very, very easy. Implementation can go very, very quickly depending on your scope, of course, and we will look at the tuning as we go along. I would say that if you're on the automation train, you want to provide self-service, the next thing you have to consider, and this is something that I come across that companies haven't done their homework, and that is you have to decide whether you can go on cloud, how much you can do in the cloud, and get that sign off within the company. We have started a few projects where this kind of questions pops out a bit too late, I would say. And depending on your cloud policy, this is of course, when you choose your vendor, this should be your guiding star. Can you go with Google? Do you need a local partner, etc.? You need to have knowledge within your conversational AI, and I will come back to this because this is also something that you look for the best technology within conversational AI, but you lack the content for it. And this is a very important part. You need to consider what KPIs you need to address, and this is, I mean, it's pretty standard stuff, but consider your customer satisfaction, of course. You need to know the scope, what kind of questions and interactions can you quantify that will be correctly addressed within your chatbot. What kind of deflection rate on manual agents is your goal, and of course make sure to track it and to display it. Have a value dashboard for your KPIs, because you might start your conversational AI project, but someone else will evaluate it later on, and if you're not good at displaying the value of your implementation, it is always a risk that someone else's with budgets, etc., will remove it later on. I spoke about the knowledge and the importance of knowledge, and because you can have a very bright conversational AI, but if you can't provide the correct answers, it will bring no value to your company at all. And you will try to, my tip is try to avoid to have separate knowledge sources or information databases for different services, because the work and the maintenance will grow and be too big, and you will not be able to maintain all your information sources. So keep in mind to build your one information source that can provide answers in whatever channel you need that answer to be presented. It could be for agents, it can be for your conversational IVR, it can be for chats, whether it's a chatbot or manual chats, also for deflecting emails, for instance. It should be easy to maintain, it should be easy to manage the content. So you don't need a degree from the university to maintain it or be a hacker. It should be maintained from the organization, from those who know the answers. So the next step is actually designing, and there's a lot of chatbots or conversational AI providers today. Some are very niche, some are broadened, and you have to decide the scalability for your implementation. Is it a part of a bigger scope, a bigger contact center, or is it something you want to implement in a silo? And this is just an example. This is our conversational hub. There are many others, of course, but our statement is that you can add any channel you want, you can add any third-party chatbot you want, and we do the orchestration in the middle, connecting channels with, for instance, Dialogflow. It could be Boost AI, it could be any vendor here, but they are all connected in a scalable enterprise platform where you have your monitoring, where you have your business intelligence, etc., where it's not a silo implementation. You also need to consider, what are you designing? Are you designing just a voice bot? Are you designing just a chatbot? Or are you designing both? And within the design scope, I think that you should think about building one bot, but deploy it maybe as a chatbot or later on as a voice bot, instead of deploying two bots and have two maintenance responsibilities. You have one bot that you can sort of deploy in different channels and for different platforms. So this is a way of thinking around your reusability and also As we know, chatbots today, voice bots tomorrow, Google Assistant the day after tomorrow. So it has to be also scalable in that manner. When it comes to considering the implementation, do you need a vendor to do it, or can we implement conversational AI or chatbot ourselves? And I would say there's a simple answer to that question, and that is yes. But in order to do that, you of course need the competence within your organization. So if you want to develop and take control over your conversational AI deployments, you need to prepare for new roles in your enterprise. You have to have some kind of dialogue designer that can design easy, usable conversational AI bots. You need someone that can train the bot. You need someone to maybe build the code if the bot is going to execute self-service errands, and I will come back to that. When you look at the vendor that you will work with or the partner, think of them as tactical, not strategical. You might want to switch. Maybe you start with a local vendor. Maybe you want to go for Google later on. Maybe you want to turn to your contact center provider. So you need to consider those parts in your journey on how to grow. And my tip is, of course, that focus on vendors that provides multiple platforms that you can sort of switch, and also to consider those GDPR issues, whether to go on fully cloud or partly cloud or not in the cloud at all. And a vendor that supports multiple chatbots can also support those issues within your organization. You need to check and also prepare for integration with backend systems, because a chatbot, you can start a chatbot with just questions and answers, but shortly a fully automated service needs to sort of handle an error from beginning to end, and this is done by integrating with your system. So you also need to have your APIs, and if you want to implement the services yourself, this is the competence that you need within your organization. And this is just, if you're interested in doing it yourself, this is a screenshot of Dialogflow, which is the chatbot provided by Google. And this is the essentials version. They have also a more advanced chatbot version that is called customer CX version, sorry. So this is a GUI, and I would say it's not very complicated to start with. So you need to define your intents, and intents are the areas the chatbot will cover. For instance, could be invoices, could be account status, could be anything that you need to define within your GUI. And entities is just a list of objects. That is, I want to open a savings account. So you have your intent, that is an account, and one of the entities is savings account, for instance. Within this GUI, you can also directly write your code, the fulfillment, which enables integration with your backend system, which also allows for more advanced dialogue features, but that needs to be written in sort of a code, a window that you edit the code in. You can also do it, as I state here, in a code repository that you have on your own. In Dialogflow, you also have the training possibilities. You use the data entered within your chatbot. You can add expressions. You can train it constantly to make the chatbot covering more and more and be sort of fully covering chatbots for that specific domain. Could be accounts, for instance. But you can also grow if you see training phases, or you see that customers also are asking about transferring money, that might be an intent that you want to add to your chatbot. And of course, to be able to improve your chatbot, you need to analyze and visualize what kind of traffic you have. And within, for instance, Google Dialogflow, you can really see your chatbot flows, where you start, where you have your traffic. If you have bank ID, which is very common in the Nordic countries, you sort of identify yourself with a mobile device, so you get access to your bank or to any institution in Sweden. And you can see also the flow for your intents, that you see that 15% are going through the intent of interest, etc. And then you get sort of a very visualized picture of your chatbot, and where to maybe look for advanced features. And so you analyzed, you did your design, you did your implementation. I always say to my customers that when you have deployed your chatbot, that's when the work starts. Because often you start to deploy the minimum value proposition that you have. It should do one task, and then you start to grow and add value to your chatbot. So make sure that you have a planning of serial, that you plan sprints towards your end goal. If you have a deflection goal, for instance, your first deployment will not address that scope, but you need to plan for a series of sprints to address your goals, for instance, and to constantly loop in new features to grow your conversational AI. And also make sure that the new roles that we discussed or I presented at the beginning, that you have your dialogue designer, you might have your AI trainer, some kind of digital coach that can make sure that the conversational AI is adjusted to your customers in those channels that you provide for, that they work together and to maintain this conversational AI bot. So just to finalize what I have been spoken about today, make sure that you are ready for the cloud if you want to go for example Google or any other cloud provider for your chatbot. And don't underestimate that this can take some time to get that sign off within your organization. When you design, think broader than one bot, think of the platform you need and how it interacts with your whole customer journey and your whole contact center system. So you don't develop automated services as a silo with their own statistics. This will bring some trouble when you move forward. When you consider implementation, consider, do you want a vendor to develop and maintain your services, or do you want to take control yourself? And that is up to you. I'm just saying that today you can implement your own chatbots, given that you recruit the right competence. You're no longer in the hands of a vendor, even though vendors, of course, still provides that kind of services, and Telia does. And looking at when you have implemented your chatbot, make sure that you tune the chatbot, that you add features, because there's nothing that is. It is really crucial that you do the tuning and enhancement, because a chatbot that gives you old information and doesn't feel up to date, something that you implemented maybe at the beginning of the century 10 years later, it's not the way you do conversational services. So you need sort of keep it up to date and work with it, which is, I think, very important. And also the way that you will meet your goals finally, to work with it to make sure that you meet your KPIs. So I think that's my time, 10:30.